Hey all, I don't think I've ever done an Instagram live by myself. So I'm really proud of hopping on. I know it's Monday, almost evening dinner time. I'm feeling incredibly grateful to my family who took my kiddo on a vacation, which is why I've been available at dinner time, bedtime hours. So those of you who are moms or have other responsibilities, of course, you can listen to this recording when you are able to. It'll be re-recorded. So today's live is going to be all about the trauma consult groups that, hi everyone, hey, thanks for saying hello. If you would like, I would love for you to ask any questions that you might have. I'm really here to answer any questions and to share a little bit about the trauma consult group that we are starting. So those of you who may follow me, definitely what I know about anyone who is connected to this account is that you're committed to growth and to healing. By the way, this is one of our new offices. Today, we love that there's skylights. It's pretty bright and airy. We had a bunch of team meetings today. So we have a whole bunch of content coming out, free content, paid content. Hey everyone, hi. So the group that I am hopping on to talk about is a group for therapists right now. And the group is a space for you if you're a professional and you're in this interesting space because there's a space for therapy, right? For us when we're therapists to go to therapy, and there's a space for us when we are in trainings to attend trainings. But then there's a space in between. And it's kind of like, how do we offer support and love to the people who are in our care as therapists, right? I'm talking directly to therapists, while still being able to stay steady and attuned and aware of ourselves. Just last week, I finished up a level 2 IFS training, which is internal family systems. And there was one module that I loved. And I want to talk about because I definitely am going to be incorporating it into the trauma group consultations. And it was talking about like when we are practicing psychotherapy, how so many times the self of the therapist gets in the way of good therapy. What does that mean? When a client comes to therapy, and you might be listening as a client, you might be listening as a therapist, you might be listening just as a human being. So when somebody reaches out for help, for guidance, for support, of course you're going to someone who has skills, right? If you're in the field of psychotherapy, if you're in any professional field, there's an expectation that you have a certain level of skill, you have a certain level of wisdom, you're operating under some kind of licensing board. So that's like a given. But when it comes to engaging in work, when you're meeting with somebody else's like hope and pain and need for shift, what happens is that we're human beings. We're not machines, right? We're not robots. So we're like, oh, you have this problem, or you're having a hard time being present, oh, you're having these body flashbacks, oh, you have this chronic feeling of insecurity. We're not robots that are just like, right? We're human beings, and part of what brought us to the field is that we have pumping hearts and a loving soul. So we have reactions. We can have loving reactions, we can have triggered reactions, we can have thoughts and feelings. And obviously the more trained we are and the more skilled we are, the better we're able to navigate when things come up. But here's the thing, and this is what I think about all the time when people reach out to me and they say, hey Esther, I know you did this training. Hey Esther, I know you did that training. Should I do this training? Should I do that training? I really want to help my clients. I really want to be a better mom. I really want to be a better teacher. I really want to, whatever it is. And I often say, I'm like, pause the training for a minute. Trainings are really important. But what's most important is you as a human being. So, the way I look at it is like the same way with parenting. I always talk about like it's important to have parenting skills. And it's also really important to have like self-regulation skills, right? How do we regulate ourselves? How well do we hold ourselves in like the mirror of knowing ourselves? So this consultation group is for so much more than just talking about, clinical concepts, such as working with people who are stuck in shame, helping people navigate, difficult marriages or challenging parenting situations. Of course, we're going to be dealing with that. But there's also another aspect of you, the therapist, you, the person who is lucky to be in this role. I personally think that any effective therapist has a real sense of humility and honesty and kindness and transparency to do good work. So if you're seeing someone, make sure that they have those qualities. Because to me, I have so much respect for the people that I've worked with. And I've only been effective for my own work working with people who have respected me and were able to see and celebrate me and also to hold me accountable. So this group is really about like myself as the group coordinator, the group leader, really getting to know each person. I've created an online platform where, I'm putting people's names, their information, really a little bit for you to get to know yourself better. Who are you as a professional? How come you walked into this field? What's your narrative? What's your journey, right? It could be a journey of pain. It could be a journey of healing. It could be a journey of passion and devotion, whatever it is. So there's me getting to know you, but essentially you getting to know your own self a lot better. And the more self-aware we are, the more grounded and clear and kind we can be in our line of work, whatever line of work it is. And then there's the piece of clinical needs, right? So coming up with certain themes, we're going to be talking about there's, assessments, there's interventions, using somatic informed work, being able to help clients be more clear about their treatment process, because so many times people are in treatment, but they could feel a little confused. And it's not that treatment is simplistic. Sometimes the therapist needs a better job in clarifying it for themselves and for the client, and then defining successful treatment outcomes. But I guess for myself, the way I look at this is that I know I shared the other day, and I ended up sharing a lot more personal than I was going to, because many times, like when people say, oh, like you want to create an offering, you want to create a group, just like give technical information. And I guess I just don't feel aligned with that. So I kind of just shared more. But the reason I'm creating this group is because I shared, I had finished my master's abroad. I was living in Israel, and I had developed a really good and solid framework, a network of people. And I started having I was feeling really secure. And then there were a bunch of different personal things that went on in my life, and I had to make some really important decisions. And, looking back, I remember feeling really disappointed and feeling really frightened and being like, why God? Why do I have to make changes, right? How come? And it's interesting because retroactively, and this is part of the consultation that I offer, many times we have struggles, and in the moment it's difficult, and I don't believe in finding the silver lining while you're navigating something. But I ended up using that journey, that shift, the choices that I had to make as something that really shaped me and actually impacted my professional identity. It's really impacted who I am. So a lot of becoming a really good professional, a lot of becoming a really good therapist is about, instead of running away from the pain points in your life, it's like when you're on steady ground, how can you actually digest and incorporate all those parts of yourself, the beautiful parts, the frightened parts, the joyful aspects of your life, the unknown aspects of your life, and really be able to incorporate that into becoming who you are. It's interesting, my staff, I have a couple of really incredible, everyone on my team, and it's not really my team, we all work together, but anyone who works at my practice, I admire them so much. They have so much to teach me. I have so much to learn from them. And at one point, one of the people on my team said, how do I do the Esther? And I said, no, you're not going to do the Esther. I want you to become your incredible version of you, right? And the reason I said that is, honestly, number one, the reason I have a group practice is because my colleagues who I've trained with and I'm really close with are all full professionally. And so I decided, lots of people were coming to me for consultation, but I don't get to have my personal say in their work or in their treatment or in if I think they have stuff to process so they can do good work. So I ended up finding some incredibly skilled, evolved, wholesome, honest people. And they're part of my team, and we all kind of support each other. So, it's kind of like a family of therapists who love and support each other and challenge each other to grow. And then we kind of can offer that to the people in our care, right? So it's just this umbrella of kindness and clarity and a certain level of integrity. But it's interesting because the way that I look at consultation is that I don't want to make anyone like me. I want to help people. I want to help you. My goal is to help you find your version of shining. Like I shared the other day, the way that I figured out, who I am, and I'm still figuring out who I am becoming, was over many years, reaching out to people. I got consultation from experts around the world who were sometimes like, who are you? And I would be like this little sweet voice being like, hello, do you work with dissociation? Hello, can you teach me how to use EMDR for pre-verbal trauma? Hello, I was just reading your book and I have a question on chapter whatever. I felt kind of like a lonesome person having these conversations. But retroactively, I'm so grateful that I did. And I'm grateful that I did, not just for myself and the wisdom that it's taught me and the humility that I got to witness. Like so many of these experts, the ones who I respect, are really just wholesome people wanting to share their wisdom with the world and their humanity. But it's because over the past, 5 to 10 years, so many people have reached out to me and spoke about concepts. And I'm like, oh my goodness, 1 second, I have to flip through my papers. I have to tell you what I found from my research or from my searchings. And can I share with you some of this? Because you're not nuts and your client's not nuts. It's just a very specific kind of symptom. It's just a very specific kind of way of understanding it and then treating it. So I'm not here because I have all the answers. I'm here because I am the kind of person who always challenges my mind and my heart to grow and evolve more and bigger. I know I told someone today that my friends used to joke that that sometimes they were shoes that were too big for me, right? Figuratively speaking. But I've been the kind of person who's like, okay, if the shoes are too big, I am persistent that I will find a way to fill them, right? Trying to fill them with consultation, with input, and eventually for my own foot to grow into this large, beautiful shoe, right? Figuratively. So sometimes we have very big shoes to step into in our lives as human beings, as clients, as leaders, as parents, as just people, right? Doing this thing called life. And especially when we're therapists, it's a matter of like finding that balance or finding the realness of like, where's the professional part of me and the skills and interventions that I need more confidence in, I want more clarity on, because I want to feel more confident. I want to go to sleep knowing like, you know what, I had such amazing sessions. I mean, if you're a therapist, you know that feeling at the end of the day when you're like, yes, it's confidential, so you can't share it with like your husband, your wife, your girlfriend, or your family, but you can reach out to like someone on your team or a good friend who's also a therapist or, a consultation, a person you get consult with, and be like, yes, that was amazing. And I'm so proud of my client, right? You can't just jump up in session and be like, yay. There have been times that I've had to contain myself in session and I'm like, yes, huge breakthrough or amazing EMDR processing. So, that's a big piece, is like being able to look at, the progress and also the skills, but also really the part of you in this process. I can't tell you how many times I've been myself as a therapist, or when I'm giving consultation, or give me a second. Okay. Just making this place more safe for all of us, in terms of comments. It's a matter of like really being able to own yourself. Oh, so many times with consultation, when people, or in groups that I've been in, there's been an incredible parallel process. If you as a therapist, or you as a person, right, but therapeutically, are processing, healing family trauma, or navigating transgenerational wounding, or working on your boundaries. Oh, Miriam, thank you. You're so welcome. If you have a question, feel free to drop it in here. Happy to answer. I have some time right now before my kiddo is coming back from vacation tomorrow. But basically, it's like sometimes the therapist will be like, I'm working on a boundary with someone in my life, and my client walked in and is working on the same thing. Or, I'm working on, making sense of my parents and my family of origin, and like 4 of my clients are navigating the same thing. Or I had a shift somatically where I'm starting to feel more when I was feeling numb. And, my clients are all starting to feel a little bit more attuned with their bodies. And it's so fascinating. And like, what do I do with this? So I have to say that like energetically, right, our clients can feel how much we can hold. I know that like, when I've been in consultation and I would talk to a consultant, and I have an amazing consultant right now, but like I remember back then it was somebody else I was seeing a couple of years ago, and I said, I don't get it. Like, how come there's so many shifts happening now when they weren't happening a couple of months ago? And she used to tell me, she's like, Esther, when you meet someone and you have a sense that they just have a huge heart and you just have a warm feeling inside, but you can't put your finger on it. She's like, that's the same thing with therapy. When your client comes into the room, they can sense, and it's not verbal, they can sense if you have space, if they can go very deep, if you have the capacity to hold big emotions, happy emotions, angry emotions, sad emotions. They can sense right away if you have the capacity and you have the interest and you have the bandwidth to be with them with all of the big, messy emotions that come up. And the more you're able to do your own work, and the more consult you get, and the more you're connected to people who have your back and are like, Esther, you got this, or Esther, this is where your stuff comes up, and how are you looking at it? Oh, great, you're doing your own work. And also, wow, you're like excited and you're attentive and attuned to your client, and you know how to check in when something feels a little off, and you don't get thrown off or insecure, but you're like, hey, I'm right here. Something just happened between us, and I'm right here to help you with that, you know? Then those shifts happen. So I love that. And that's one of the biggest things that I'm passionate about. Of course, like I'm trained, I'm an MDR consultant, and I provide consultation for that. I give consultation for, somatic work. But to me, I guess my heart and my passion is really about helping to cultivate the therapist's self into being integrative and solid and confident and real and honest. And in these groups, it's all about being able to be honest and vulnerable with each other. None of us are better or worse than each other. But there's something about, I know for myself, like the groups that I've created, like I mentioned the other day, I have a few people that I've hired, and I have a few people that I've created peer groups with. Some of them are like, we have someone who runs the group, and then there's people in that group. So we have like someone who helps run it, and then we kind of have developed these friendships and relationships in the group, and it's been really grounding. So we always have wisdom, but we also have shared wisdom. What I found really powerful is that there's a safe space because people speak the same language, the same emotional language and psychological language, and it's not like that I'm speaking Spanish. It's not like I'm talking to people only about like their chocolate chip recipes or, the coffee date conversations, but really able to be human, be honest, be real, talk about my professional identity, talk about my personal self, and really be challenged and pushed. And I know that those spaces are warm spaces that, there's so much safety and they usually last for a long time where we evolve together. So Miriam, the question about you're in psychoanalytic training, can you join this? Absolutely. The criteria for joining this group is not a matter of orientation. It's okay if you have a psychoanalytic orientation, really. I'm not saying that this is just like a somatic or an EMDR training specifically, because I personally find that integrative methods are ideal, like blending a compilation of different methods. I have pulled out different methods or different interventions that I find helpful in terms of assessments and treatment planning and things like that. But if there's two separate groups that we've created that are in the middle of being created. So one is people who have experience from recently graduated, so 1 to 5 years. And then we have another group that's people who have training between 5, 6 to 10 years. So it really depends on what group you land. The reason I did that was because in my trauma training, what I realized was that there was a discrepancy in some of the way I was delivering information. So sometimes I was talking as if I'm talking to people who have been in the field for 6 years plus. And sometimes I was talking, to people who are, just in the field. So I really want to make sure that the information relates to you and is easily digestible. We did say that we have some bonuses. So I have a services agreement that I've created for all clients in my practice, where that's huge. And I would give each person in the group one-on-one time to me to go over the services agreement to make sure that you have, everything delineated clearly. That's huge for the framework for treatment, to be clear. So you can have better treatment experiences and to use that as a reference for clients. So many times the treatment frame and boundaries or expectations aren't clear, and that kind of ends up truncating the work. And then we have two other bonuses, which are 2 books that are being published. One is about parts work, and it doesn't have to necessarily be IFS, but it's an amazing psychoeducational tool. Understanding emotional parts, understanding parts that help us manage. I find parts or ego states or child states, I should say, work really powerful when it comes to trauma healing. And in the booklet, it explains it in a very simplistic way. So I actually find that amazing, and I put in a lot of stories, and there's a great visuals that I've worked with a media person and illustrator to create. And then there's another book called Everybody Grieves. So I've been really awesome, Mary. I'm super excited. So I've been really connected to the concept of grief, and grief a lot of times, we know, people talk about grief as in loss and death. But, as therapists, I think it's important for us to acknowledge that all of our clients are grieving one way or another, grieving emotional neglect, grieving a phase of life that they're not yet in, grieving, their struggle with parenthood, grieving, the bodies that they live in, grieving their relationships with God. Grieving doesn't mean bad, by the way. And in the book, that you would get if you sign up. There's we talk about like healthy grieving, right? Processing through grief and getting stuck in grief. There's a big difference. Grieving doesn't mean to be stuck in mud forever. Healthy grieving is grieving that moves, that helps, that you move through and with. So you're lessening the weight. So that's essentially with any kind of trauma and anxiety healing the same thing. It's a matter of being able to tap into the discomfort to be able to feel less uncomfortable, right? When we help our clients face difficult realities or have those difficult conversations or set new boundaries or speak differently to their families, their lovers, their children, people in their community, get clearer about like their work goals or things like that. It's never a matter of like, oh, it's going to be hard. Therapy is hard work. You know, my difficulty when people say therapy is hard work is like, so then what's the point of therapy? Why should I go to therapy if it's just hard work? There needs to be like some golden star. And it's like, therapy is hard work and the relief is worth it. Right? When somebody has a really difficult session or when someone slowly starts coming to terms with, you know, the childhood that was beautiful and rich, but also had some really painful or scary memories, or, you know, the friendship that they had, but there was this loss and there's this need to find a new identity, or the difficulty speaking up at work, or the feeling of feeling invisible, or the body that feels often anxious. We need to help our clients also see the reason of why the work is worth it. And you got to bet your bottom dollar that you, as a clinician, feel confident that you can help bring your client to a place of relief. And sometimes relief takes a little longer, and sometimes relief needs to be like a sliver at a time, and sometimes relief is much quicker. That depends on your clients and expectations and your assessment measures to set realistic expectations. But yeah, that would be really important. So if any of you are interested, if you're a therapist, reach out. And okay. And feel free to ask any questions. And I look forward to the group. So far, the people who signed up for the groups are incredible human beings. Super excited. We're going to be starting mid-August. So that's, I would say, we're probably going to close the doors next week, Monday or Tuesday. So we're just getting a few more applicants that we're going through. Every single person, just to answer some frequently asked questions. So there are 2 separate groups. The groups meet twice a month for 90 minutes. And if you go onto our website and you press on group consults, you'll see all the details about the groups. So it's twice a month for 90 minutes. And there's an online platform where you get to have access to all the information that we spoke about. You will have access to our library of a lot of videos that are trauma informed. You'll have free access to 2 of the booklets that we just spoke about, the grief and the parts work, and you'll also get a copy of the services agreement. Oh, there's one last thing. Our trauma training is coming out. So it took us a while to upload it onto our platform and to reorganize the content. If you haven't taken the trauma training, you can get access to module 1, which is pretty thorough and robust. And every module comes with like a 40-page PDF with beautiful visuals and education. So kind of like a book, and then there's a video with all the trainings. So you would get 20% off for that. So reach out if you have any questions. We are more than happy. So the steps is that like this: you go online, you press the apply button. As soon as you apply, our incredible intake manager, Denise, will reach out to you, set up a time for me to hop on a Zoom call to meet with you for 10 to 15 minutes to really make sure I'm a good fit. I would take notes on what it is that you're needing, what you're wanting, a chance for you to ask me any questions that you might have. And then if we're a good go, we process information, you get a welcome packet, and then you get access to the platform. So excited, really delighted. You know, this is my heart and my passion. Some of the team members at my practice were like, could we join this group? And I was like, no, guys, you know, like this is my little group. And I'm also really devoted to connecting and giving back and really helping to support fellow passionate, loving, incredible human beings continue to make an impact. Because the way that I see it is that the more steady and clear and solid we are, our lives are richer, our clients' lives are richer, and then slowly we're creating ripple effects for trauma healing to be something that really spreads throughout society in a much more healthy and vibrant way. So if you're someone who's committed to making that shift, to allowing really good education about trauma healing, to normalizing people's symptoms, if they're in your practice or if you just provide psychoeducation, I don't care. What I care about, obviously, if you're signing up, you're practicing psychotherapy in some kind of way. But if you're signing up, then you are in some way, shape, or form committed to shifting the generational beliefs and the societal beliefs all about healing and normalizing. We'll talk all about the symptoms that are so normal and helping people understand and process through and with trauma symptoms, because the last 10-15 years trauma research has been transformative, and the healing that's available that wasn't before is really incredible and can and does change lives. So I'm excited to share all of this with you. This will be saved for anyone who wasn't able to watch. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I will answer some questions a little later on.